What's up, everybody? Jackson here today with my little brother Chubbz.
Hello, everyone.
Today we're going to be talking about Agents of Mayhem a little bit. Now, this came out quite a while ago. I think it came out in 2016, 2017. It's an older title. It was on that year's Angry Joe's most disappointing games list, even though I don't think he really played it and he just kind of took Delrith's opinion on it, which, I mean, I think Delrith was wrong here. I think for what Agents of Mayhem was trying to accomplish and be, it did it very well. And it's not exceptional. No. It's not a standout fucking title or anything like that.
It definitely has its flaws, but for what it was going for, like you said, you know.
Yeah, so basically the idea behind the conception of Agents of Mayhem, I feel like, was, okay, these hero shooters are huge, they're gonna be big, you know, character comp, things like that. What if that was a single player experience? So what if Overwatch was a single player experience? What if Battleborn were a single player experience? And I don't know exactly what games they were looking at. They may have been looking more to the Team Fortress side of things.
Right.
I'm not sure how staggered this was, like, in development with, like, games like Overwatch becoming popular and shit like that, where this blew up into money. But the thing is that it felt like they were trying to do that, and they said, well, what's the best way to do that? And they said, well, what if there was like a G.I. Joe-like agency, and within that agency you had these agents that were standout, and what if those agents, you played as one of 3 of them at any given time of a possible 15, and you swap in between them. So you have 3 agents in the field, and you're able to swap in between them, and they all have unique abilities, they all have a unique super ability. They, in this instance, the Mayhem ability.
Right.
And, you know, on the flip side of that with the story, they were like, well, that's a good idea. So G.I. Joe-like, let's have like a Cobra-like organization.
Yeah, like a Saturday morning cartoon-esque, like, delivered story, all the way to, like, how the characters are introduced, to how everything's introduced, and how, like, you go from the open world to the arc, so it'll play like that guitar intro, that Saturday morning guitar.
Agents of Mayhem!
Yeah, you'll have either a character from Mayhem or Legion, like the good guys or bad guys there, and they give a ridiculously funny quote.
Yeah, like G.I. Joe knows or whatever
that like the more you know type stuff. Yeah. And it was
public service announcement shit.
Yeah.
Don't do coke, kids. It's bad.
Yeah, like one from Hardtack is like, everybody likes the big guy, but there's nothing to like about the effects of heart disease.
Yeah, dude. Something like that.
The more you know.
Yeah, there's some funny ones, dude. I can't remember any off the top of my head. But I remember the humor in the game was there. I thought it was very funny.
Oh, yeah.
At times, cringy, but, like, I still understood the comedy they were going for.
Right.
And I wasn't annoyed by it.
Yes.
So, like, although I was kind of, like, a little bit embarrassed, like, that fucking fell flat. It wasn't like, I was like...
All of August Gaunt.
Yeah, all of August Gaunt is so over the top. Like, fucking
I think
auto-tune singing and everything, dude.
Like, I even think that Aisha was freaking... funnier simply because it's like the hype of the K-pop and the craze behind it, which is hilarious to me. And so like her jokes and her character was really funny. But August Gaunt, the whole time I was like, man,
like,
I just want
maybe in like 01 this would have been good. Like the very early 2000s it would have been a lot better, but you understood what they were going for, though. And it was still, like, and within that, like, when his fucking auto-tune was breaking and his voice was, like,
and
it was
then the
his
songs
real voice
that you're hearing that you hate all of a sudden become hilarious because it's, like, a prepubescent teen singing. Like, you know?
Exactly, bro. So even then, like, when that's a very good example. Even when, like, some of the humor is falling flat, there's still redeemable bits in it.
Oh yeah.
I think, and I felt like, so when I got this, I got it for $30. I got it for Mark this year for Christmas. It was on sale for $19, and I was like, I was like, you gotta play this, dude, so we can do a video, because this, you know, like, I really think this game was aligned very unfairly. I think that people who were saying that it wasn't very Saints-like, I think it had Saints Row-like things in it.
Right.
I could tell that the people who made Agents of Mayhem were the same people that made Saints Row.
Oh yeah.
Granted, I've only played Gat Out of Hell like in its entirety. That's the only Saints Row game I played.
Right.
But from that to this, like, I can see it.
Yeah, third-person shooter combat all the way down to like how you sprint and your character.
I mean,
model
they
runs.
definitely changed it up and added more of like a Destiny-like experience with the shooting.
Yeah.
Because they amped up time to kill on enemies, and you kind of have to be strategic about it and use cover. I mean, on the max difficulty, this game turns into a very strategic, like, you have to pick the correct 3 people you gotta have, and you gotta be good on them. And that's where it a little bit takes a dive. I feel like some characters were underwhelming as opposed to others. Like, Yeti's just a beast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeti is one of the best characters in the game. And, like, when you get him and you have him on your team, he's such a solid character to drop back on.
Oh, yeah.
Just not only with his base abilities and skills and the damage output, but on top of that, you add, like, the Legion tech and the it's Legion tech. And also,
tech,
like, the different things you can do within that.
Gadgets.
Yeah.
So you like have your gadgets, your weapons, you have a passive that every single character has that they can equip, and they're all like a plethora of different abilities and things that change certain actives. Like, for example, Kingpin normally has an SMG, right?
Yeah.
I got one that turned it into, like, a laser rifle where I would charge the shots and it would shoot
a laser.
beam.
Yeah, I remember getting that one.
Yeah, so
and that was for weapon. The gadget was, like, their ability.
And then the Legion tech.
Passive would affect, like, bonuses or...
Right. Make them do more damage.
Yeah, with Kingpin, again, I think there was one that if they were affected by a status effect, he dealt more damage to them, and his ability made it so they had a status effect.
Yeah.
So, like, and if you comboed that with the ability one that gave it the status effect,
then it was a combo type.
Yeah, there were cool things you could look at and see and do there. There was quite a bit of depth there.
Oh yeah, and then the Legion tech was also like a bonus modifier, and then on top of that you have your core upgrades, which is just something that adds something to the character.
Yeah, like passives.
And it's just like it's there and it's active and it's may do something different with one of the characters' things. Like, for example, I think Fortune, one of hers was Glory Stun worked a little differently.
Yeah.
Right, but it's just there now. Once you get
it, and it's like an upgraded passive is what those are like.
Exactly.
And then you have the talent tree that eventually you unlock all the way. Mm-hmm. And like that's, just there to basically boost your character's stats up. And once you get all those up and you have like 3-man team that you really like and you go out like on the hardest setting, there's a lot of strategy there, and there's some running away, there's some cover fights.
You have to like constantly swap between all of
and that's
your
such a cool aspect, like having 3 that you can swap to on the fly. I thought that was very cool, as opposed to, and that's kind of why you see a lot less depth in them than like in a game like per se Battleborn. Right. You see a lot less depth there, but there is a layer. There's, it's not just, cookie cutter shit. There's room for you to fuck around with different things and see how things combo with each other, and like that's definitely there. But I think that that's why they had the 3 agents, and that's why that was probably a decision made before even the creating of the characters, is they had decided like they wanted to have you be playing 3 active agents and be able to swap between them at will. And that design decision probably informed the design decision with the characters. And I think what happened with the characters is they just all didn't feel balanced to where some didn't feel underwhelming. Like Rama, aside from her headshot, but on those later difficulties, you really don't have much time to be shooting, and always those rapid fire characters are going to be so much better. Yeah,
you have to pretty much play her like a sniper, but
the game doesn't really allow for that, because the mobs, the way the AI is designed, they rush you, they will spawn on top of you if you're,
as soon as you shoot one, you're having the entire mob go to your location.
And then there's Scheherazade, who's an entire melee character, and that doesn't really work out because the melee guys, like, you really don't ever see her being as useful as Yeti.
Right.
In multiple situations. She's more of a like, okay, if I'm against this one particular fucking mob, like she's gonna come in really handy. Yeah. But aside from that, in all these other situations, she's not. When Yeti's a character that's like, he'll be good in this situation, he'll be solid in that situation.
Oh yeah.
You know, just because of how much health he gets at the end of his build,
and that's
the ability to heal when he dashes, like.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing is they don't have classes per se, but they definitely have that atypical tank-like character.
Yeah, and
like Yeti, Hardtack, Daisy, you know. And then there's some characters that aren't really tanky out of the jump, like those characters that, but then become tanky later. Like for example, Red Tank or Red Card.
Yeah, Red Card.
Red Card, he can become like a beefy
once you
guy.
Built all the Legion tech and got all that shit for him.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, and that's where I think the problem is with the harder difficulty, is because if you're going on the hardest difficulty, you're constantly swapping between the 3 characters. You're not going to want 3 weak characters that can get one shot by snipers.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to want at least one of those slots being a character that can
like
sprint
Daisy,
and
Yeti,
move. Yeah. And these are characters that also don't have that wall jump, so they have the dash, which means that they have more mobility.
Yeah,
than,
they can jump and dash in the air.
Yeah, and so because of that, they're more agile, they're able to get behind cover faster, you know.
But then there's characters like Braddock, who's also like more beefy, but not as beefy as a Yeti, but has a much higher damage output, especially if you build her with like the special one that makes her have more special ammo.
Oh yeah, and
so then, like, and I feel like, so I would say at $30, if you can get this game at $30 or less, all DLC included, don't buy this game without buying the DLC. That's another thing that I think really caused this reception to be hit hard, and I think it's a fair point. Because the DLC were whole agents, and one of them was Johnny Gat, which is a Saints Row favorite, character from the Row series.
Yeah.
So to put him behind a DLC wall with a season pass price, or like it's not really that much to buy him. I think it's only $4.
Right.
At full price to buy him. But yeah, to put that behind that, like, that's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Also, throw a bundle together on Steam. Don't make me buy the game and then fucking 9 fucking separate DLC items so my brother gets the complete game. It's things like that I can definitely see criticism being levied this game's way. But I think a lot of that and a lot of the, like, disappointment on no mods, and that's a big thing within the Saints community. I think with a lot of that stuff being there, like, I think that a pretty decent fucking game that honestly kind of satiated a hunger that I had after playing games like Battleborn and seeing the potential there for a single player campaign, seeing games like Overwatch come out and think of how much fun that would be if it had a well thought out, long, story campaign
that introduced all the characters in an interesting and unique way.
And this does that. This introduces every agent with a very comic booky style cutscene. They have they call them, like, within that, the 3 agent teams. So like, there's the bombshells and the fucking
franchise force.
Yeah, the franchise force. So like and that's funny because they kind of make a fucking, it's a very like, it's a theme throughout about kind of mocking that 80s mentality with toys and how, like, you know what I mean, it's all about the merchandising and like everything else is second.
And the Saturday morning cartoon, like, it's very
and it feels like it feels like you're picking up 3 digital action figures and having a lot of room to play around with them in a fucking 3D a digital fucking world. Like, that's what it felt like to me, and I had a lot of great fun running around doing all the miscellaneous things on the map, leveling up these agents, completing the main campaign alongside all the side quests and all those missions, and I enjoyed my time playing. Definitely think it was worth my money. Definitely would recommend it to someone who was looking for that sort of experience and kind of felt let down by the industry when, you have companies like Blizzard saying a single player campaign would be too hard to do and they'd have to just make a brand new game. Adding an AI mode.
Exactly.
It would be too much work. So, like, if you're disappointed in that sort of thing, you see the potential there for perhaps a single player campaign or some sort of narrative driven story mission campaign like Battleborn offered in a very small dose and just enough to kind of make you want more sort of way, even after all the expansion pass bullshit that, you know,
oh yeah,
all that stuff. Even after those missions, it was still, at the end of the day, it didn't feel as whole and meaty as Agents of Mayhem to me.
At all.
That's it for me, Jax.
Chubbz.
We're out of here. Till next time, stay awesome, stay safe, everybody, and always remember, fuck Legion.
What is it they say? When all you have is a hammer. Every problem looks like a nail. Farewell, Mayhem.